What is going on, baseball fans? For the last time this season, I guess the season's over technically, but either way, for the last time this year, we are back on the mics. Episode 26 of Season 2 of This Week in Baseball, presented by Diamond Digest. I am your host, Jordan Lazowski. I am joined by another co-host of this wonderful podcast who has done a better job than me at leading, Diego Franco-Carreno, along with Kristian Lloyd, a longtime member of the page, and Ethan Fisher, who is becoming a longtime member of this page. Gentlemen, how are we this evening?
Sad.
I'm better.
Vibing.
We've got different levels. Yeah, I was going to say. The National
I didn't
League
want to say
fans
straight
might
up sad.
No, it's been a sad day.
It's
been
sad.
in the morning.
Well, tomorrow's a sad day.
Oh, I'm gonna be crying. I'm not ready.
I think you're not ready.
All right, I get it.
In case you've missed the news, and we'll jump right into it here, not to just let's rip off the Band-Aid, Diego. We wrote this podcast rundown in the afternoon, and just a few hours ago, word came out. Buster Posey is scheduled to announce his retirement right now tomorrow, but by the time you're listening to it, today. I don't know if anyone's going to have better words to say on it than Diego, the man himself. So the floor is yours, my friend.
The resident Giants fan that's the only one we've had in the, 4 yeyears I've been here? I think we've had like sprinkling of maybe. We just got a new one though. But yeah, man, it hurts. It hurts a lot. So Buster Posey means so much to the city of San Francisco. He came up in 2010, to be the full-time starter. And that I was 10 years old when Buster Posey broke into the big leagues. I am now 22. I was in how old are you when you're 10? Or what grade are you when you're 10? Like fourth grade, fifth, sixth?
Fifth, yeah.
Fourth grade. I've graduated college, and Buster Posey's been with me the entire way. He's been there every season except for 2020, but that's COVID, and that was understandable. Barely count anyway. But it just hurts. He's been such a big part of baseball, the city of San Francisco. You got 3 World Series rings in the quick span in the early 2010s, and he was instrumental, if not the most important piece, in those World Series runs. And I know Giants Twitter also just was heartbroken by the news. It came as a shock to pretty much everybody because he had one of the best seasons of his career this last season. He batted over 300. He put up the most WAR amongst catchers this year. He was awesome this season. He was an all-star. And he's going out on top. And I can't even be mad about it because Buster Posey was everything to the city of San Francisco, everything to the game of baseball for several years. He is one of, if not the best catchers in the history of the game. He's the best catcher of his generation, that's for damn sure. So it's hard seeing him go, but he's got 4 kids, 2 really young daughters. It's time for him to be a dad, and you can't fault him for it. He did what he could. He gave the game quite literally everything he had, and I'm going to miss the hell out of him. Giants fans are going to miss the hell out of him. Baseball fans are going to miss the hell out of him. So, to Buster Posey, to the Posey family, thank you for giving us Buster for 12 seasons. Buster, thank you for everything you did for the city, everything you did for the game. We're going to miss you.
I haven't lost a favorite player of mine in a while. Paul Konerko was the last one. And so I get the feeling because it's what he means to the fan base more than anything else, more than the player he is. So I get the feeling. It's been a little bit for me. It hurts. But like you said, guy went out on top. He literally put up a 5-win season and said, I have nothing left to prove. I'm going to go be a dad. And that's the sort of alpha type move I can respect.
And you got to remember, when he set out 2020, it's because his 2 kids, him and his wife had adopted these 2 kids. that I don't remember what the exact situation was, but I'm pretty sure they were in like a tough situation, and his family adopted him. That's why he sat out 2020 to spend time with the new kids that he and his wife had adopted. Really kind of building that family, and he went out on top. Gave this last season, he's like, he has nothing left to prove. Whatever anyone had, because he had a couple of down years there, and this is his swan song. He went out on a 107 win team. Like, you're not going to top that again in your career, like win wise in the regular season. Yeah, the season didn't end the way you wanted to, but I mean, it's tough to get to that point ever. So, it's a hell of a way to end your career. He had nothing left to prove, and it sucks because looking back on all the pictures that I saw on like people tweeting today on the Twitter sphere, baseball Twitter, Giants Twitter in particular, I saw most of like the photos I'd seen. Like, you can tell, like, kind of looking, especially when the last day of the season they had officially clinched the West. Like, the photos of him just watching like the videos in the board, like, you could tell that look in his eye, like this was his last regular season game. This is his last regular season, because you can, like, you know what I'm talking about, like when those players, they kind of have that last moment, like big moment. You can kind of see it in their face, and you never know at the time, but looking back, you can tell. That's what I kind of had that moment to realization. It's like he knew this was it for him. He wasn't going to tell anybody, but he knew it, and I respect it. He's got a family, and he's going to be a hell of a dad, and one day he's going to be a hell of a manager.
So the natural question is the Hall of Fame piece behind it too.
Absolutely.
He's a Hall of Famer. If you say otherwise, you are an absolute idiot.
It's true.
Now, I guess we're in agreement then that he should be a Hall of Famer. I guess the two questions are, number one, will he? And number two, how long will it take? Is it a first ballot type situation? Let's separate it into two things. Number one, should he be first ballot? Number two, will he be? I think that's the line you kind of got to draw.
Should he be first ballot? Yes, he's one of the best catchers in the history of the game. He's a Hall of Fame cat. Like, what else do you want? Do you want to be the best catcher, like one of the best catchers in the history of baseball? Yes, that sounds like a first ballot Hall of Famer to me. Is he going to be? Probably not, because people who vote on that kind of things typically are idiots. So it shouldn't take longer than 5 years. It'll be blasphemous if it takes longer than 3. But I think he's the first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think most people generally agree, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I had some people in my mentions today saying Jorge Posada didn't make it, so he wasn't going to make it, which had me taken aback.
I saw that today, too, and I was upset. I was grieving already.
Yeah, he 55 WAR in basically 11 seasons, 10 and a half full seasons. He's one of the best catchers of all time. There's no chance he's not. And like, not only that, but he was so great outside of that. Like, everyone, all the reporters, he was baseball's golden boy. I mean, they changed the catching rule. Something like I, to this day, hate to my core, the Buster Posey rule 3.14. It's because he was baseball's golden boy. And yeah, he's first ballot Hall of Famer. I think the voters think that as well. He's going to be first ballot.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with them too. I think it would have been a little more interesting if Yadier Molina also retired at the same time, so we could see the contrast of both of them were on the ballot at the same time. But I think they'll both get in. I have a little thing on Posey here also. I saw a tweet today from Chris Quick from Yahoo Sports. He said that since 2009, which was the year Posey debuted, catchers have a 242, 311, 389 slash, and Posey just by himself is at 302, 372, 460 for his career.
Insane.
So, not even close.
Being that much better than all of the rest of your competition at your position is absolutely insane.
On top of him being just a monster defensively also. Everything else, he was the whole package. Even for all those people who are like, oh, it's the intangible, the things that numbers can't measure. He has all of that too.
He does.
Like, come on. Like, what are we talking about? Anyway.
I figured they would elicit some strong emotions. I saw some stupid people in my time.
It's been a long day.
Yeah. It's a good question to ask because We've long debated. I mean, we do this Hall of Fame stuff every offseason. And it seems like every offseason, we all agree on things that those who get the votes don't agree on. So I think it's a worthy question. But I look forward to the debate in 5 years. I really do, because, I mean, for a long time, it was best catcher in baseball. At least his name's mentioned it all the time. And it's an honor for him to hopefully receive sometime soon. So.
Also, you said I can't wait for the debate in 5 years. That was the exact thing thing Bob Nightingale tweeted earlier. So I don't know what to say about you there, Laz, but
I get excited over some healthy debate because you get to decide who you like to get your opinions from once in a while.
That's fair. That makes sense. And also, like, when this news goes like live tomorrow, I'm going to be using the hashtag Thank28 because I think it's clever. If anyone else wants to use it, feel free, because I think it's good. It makes sense. It rhymes. So
I can put it in the tweet for when we publish this podcast in the morning. So there you go. I guess any final thoughts on Buster Posey from anybody?
Sad. That is my final thought.
So then let's jump into Around the League in 60 seconds. I think the big news is still, which we still haven't gotten to 10 minutes in, the Atlanta Braves won the World Series. We will get to that and much more. Yes, believe it or not, that happened. We will get into that more in 7th inning stretch. But as we do always, give each of our panelists here the chance to cover anything they might really want to call out besides, I guess, Buster Posey. We'll start with Kristian, if there's anything you want to cover else.
Yeah. Actually, this is going to be about Buster Posey. I just wanted to get my own little segment for it.
Do it.
I started catching at 10 years old. I debuted, like, my first ever jersey had the number 28 on it when I was 7 in the Care Youth League way back when. Number 28's been ingrained in my life. Jose Molina, as a result of that, was one of my favorite players. I was taking batting practice and I broke the catcher's finger, so I had to catch. I hated catching for the first 2 years, and then Buster Posey came up with number 28 catching, and he was amazing. And my knees might hate Buster Posey more than anything else, but there's nothing in my life like Buster Posey is just one of the greatest influences I've had personally.
Love it. Ethan?
I wish I had a really sentimental story about Buster Posey impacting my life, but I don't really have one.
That's fair.
Most of what I took away from this week was either Buster Posey or World Series stuff we're about to talk about.
Great. Easy enough to me. Diego, your last chance. I won't say it's your
Sad.
last chance, but
You think I won't mention Buster Posey again on this podcast? You're wrong there, Bucko. But
I don't even doubt it a little bit.
Yeah. Only thing, like, the offseason's already started. Like, the trades being made, calls being taken, free agents starting to, figure out where they want to go. I'm ready for it. The stove is already warm. Let's get it hot. Let's get it going.
Let's see how long it stays warm for. We'll jump into 7th inning stretch now. We've got a little bit of everything. We've got some World Series talk. As Diego mentioned, the offseason has already started as well. And some teams have been making some moves in terms of personnel, and we'll get to that as well. Let's start with the biggest news story outside of Buster Posey. In case you missed it, which I don't know how you would have, on Tuesday night, another baseball season came to a close with the Atlanta Braves shocking everyone by defeating the Houston Astros in 6 games. They took it on Houston's home turf. We'll start with Kristian. How surprising was this result to you? What were some of the keys in the series victory for Atlanta? And could this World Series victory change how we see some teams approach the trade deadline?
This was an absolute surprise to me, simply because, like, throughout sports history, Atlanta has been a laughingstock in the postseason, and I made a promise with John Principe. I was not going to believe the Atlanta Braves were the World Series champions until they were holding it. Beforehand, I was still convinced Astros were going to win. How did they win? Like, the keys, they hit more home runs, a lot more home runs, 9 more home runs to be in fact. And that's how you win baseball games. There's no other way about it. They pummeled on the Astros pitching when it mattered.
What's your opinion on foregoing home runs to hit 300 instead?
Yeah, I think you're a loser if you want to do that.
You know, I had to ask. It remains a topic of conversation, believe it or not, so I had to ask.
Yeah, if you're sacrificing as all of your power to try to hit for average, you're not
Being very selfish and foolish.
Ethan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised as well. I believe it was here on the podcast where I said right before the trade deadline that I thought the Braves should sell. So I will humbly take my L. The Braves were already not in great health early on, like even before the Ronald Acuna injury, and they weren't even playing that well when he was there anyway. So I don't really think anybody saw this coming. They were 44-44. They were right at 500 on July 10th, which was the day when Acuna tore his ACL. And they didn't surpass 500 at any point until August 6th. They were at or under 500 the entire rest of the season before that point. But they were just a really well-oiled machine, not just in the World Series, but all throughout the playoffs. They were underdogs in every series that they played in. The Brewers, they scored just enough runs to beat that really, really good pitching staff the Brewers have. They beat the Dodgers in the championship series despite the fact that the Dodgers won 18 more games in the regular season. 18 more games, which is just a ridiculous difference. And then the Astros, 18.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then the Astros, it was their third World Series appearance in 5 years, and the Braves still knocked them off. Like Kristian said, the home runs were obviously a huge factor. They out-homered the Astros 11-2, and Jose Altuve had both of the Astros home runs, and Jorge Soler hit 3 all by himself. So that was a huge play there. The starting pitching in spots, too, was really key. Ian Anderson had the 5 no-hit innings in Game 3. Max Fried, obviously, was dominant in the clincher. And then Charlie Morton, even though he only went, 2 1/3 or whatever, you got to give him props for mowing him down on a broken leg. And then the relief pitching also was really good for them, specifically Tyler Matzik, Will Smith, Luke Jackson, Chris Martin. All those guys pitched really well in the World Series. And one of the other big keys for them was shutting down Yordan Alvarez, who hit over 500 and had an OPS over 1,400 in the ALCS against the Red Sox. And he went 2 for 20 with 6 strikeouts in the World Series. So they completely shut him down. In regards to the philosophy at the trade deadline, I do think that this will inspire more teams who are, more on the bubble to go for it. I think a lot of the reason why the Braves did, though, was because of how poor the NL East was outside of them.
Point.
Even the Mets, they were 5 games behind the Mets, and they hadn't pulled away yet. And I think that's one of the big reasons why they decided to go for it. And obviously it worked. But yeah, I think this will inspire other people to do that in the future also.
Diego, your thoughts?
Yeah. So like everyone, it's no one expected the Braves to be here. It's not where a single, even Braves fans would have told you, back, when Acuna tore his ACL, I was like, oh, we're done. There's no chance. But all it takes is one hell of a run. Ask the Cardinals on their way to the postseason. All it takes is one hell of a run. And I think that same podcast earlier this season, Ethan had mentioned, he said the Braves should sell. I said the Braves should buy. I'm like, they can still go for it. That division's garbage. And they did, and look where it got them. They won it all, baby. But it doesn't have to be the best team. That's usually not the case. It's rare, I think, the best team wins it all in baseball. That's just baseball. Like the hot team won, the team that got hot at the right time won. That's just kind of how it goes. The Braves were ridiculously hot going into that World Series. They got pretty hot, at the right time. Like Soler, Jock, Adam Duvall, those big acquisitions at the trade deadline, they got hot at the right time, got them into the postseason, and once you're there, anything can happen. That's just kind of how it goes. And, generally, a good strategy for winning baseball games, scoring more runs than your opponent. That's what they did. Seems pretty effective to me. But some keys to them, doing that was just, like I said, just being hot at the right time. The outfielders throughout the entire playoffs were incredible for them. Those off-season acquisitions really helped them, get past those teams who were viewed as like those pitching juggernauts or like those teams that were not supposed to lose, like the Dodgers. It wasn't probable by any means, but it's fun. It's chaotic. We love chaos. We love fun, and we hate the Dodgers. That's should be.
Ain't that the truth?
That is, that's how things should be, and I think that's just like some of the things. And that team just meshed well. Like the personalities of that team, I think was a big part of them having so much success. I think that was a big part of those teams that were successful this past season. Like take the Giants for example, 107 wins. You didn't have any real big superstars by any means, but they meshed in just the perfect way to do as well as they did. And so, do I see this, changing how teams approach a trade deadline? Absolutely. I mean, if your team, you forget about how many wins you have. How close are you in your division race, in your wild card race? How many games back are you when it matters, when you need to get better, and there are obvious holes to fill? That's what the Braves did. They did it perfectly, and they won the World Series. That's really all it comes down to. They came out on top of a year that saw some of the craziest times, some of the most crazy talented teams you'll ever see, and some of the teams that just had no business being as good as they did. And I think one key that I left off was Freddie Freeman magic. He deserved it. It happened for him. He did it for Charlie. Charlie Freeman's one of the cutest kids I've ever seen in my entire life.
Agreed.
To do it for Charlie Freeman, if anything. And it was awesome to see him make that final out. And that's just baseball. And baseball's awesome. So
the one thing I hate the one thing I hate the most is the best team didn't win. It's like, have you ever watched baseball before?
There've been 15 unique World Series winners since 2001. 15 unique different World Series winners. You can't say that about any other sport.
Exactly. And that's what makes it great. It's like if you get something different consistently, that makes the sport more fun. The best team, you determined the best team when you played 162. You determined the World Series winner by playing an extra 20 games or so.
Exactly.
You know what you're getting yourself into when you sign up for that. And
the most talented team this year didn't even win their division.
Yeah. I think it's frustrating when there's articles written about, we need to change it because the best team didn't win. It's like, that's the point. That's what makes it fun. Get over yourselves. Anyhow. Inning 2, fact or fiction. Now, before I announce this, know that a lot of my questions that I write here are inspired by what I read on my timeline. This is not...
You're saying it's your personal beliefs?
Exactly. This is not me saying these are my personal beliefs. These questions are often inspired by what I see. Keep that in mind. Fact or fiction? The Braves winning the World Series was a, quote, triumph for baseball purity over the analytics craze of 2021 and previous. I hate this question. Ethan.
You wrote it, so.
And I wrote it too.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards fiction. That isn't really something that, was really on my mind much in regards to this World Series. It definitely isn't the same as last year when it was the Dodgers and the Rays. And there was just such a huge contrast there where, one team has tripled the payroll of the other team. And it's just two completely different teams who operate two completely different ways. It definitely didn't feel like that at all, even though the Astros, I know, are still one of the more analytically inclined teams. It still felt like, they earned their way to the World Series, whereas, with the Rays last year, a lot of people didn't feel that way. I would say, though, that the biggest win for the baseball purists was Zach Greinke going 2 for 3 at the plate and being used off the bench to pinch hit. I think that was the biggest win for the baseball purists.
I kind of agree with that one. Kristian?
No, is this a win for baseball purists? Absolutely not. Let's set some facts real quick. 72% of the Braves' runs scored in the World Series were via the home run. 72%. All right, no baseball and purist wants that. They 30% and
They
they're
want
happy.
300 averages.
The Braves shifted versus every single left-handed hitter. Every single one had a shift on them. The Braves are really good at shifting. That is not a baseball purist take. The Braves used 2 different bullpen games in the World Series. Has any baseball purist ever remotely wanted that? No. This was an absolute laugh in the face, a mockery of any baseball purist. It's all Alex Rodriguez taking pride in this. For Brian Snitker, and they've got it all wrong. Brian Snitker might be a boomer in the sense that he doesn't like showboating or bat flipping, and he's a loser for that. But analytically inclined, the Braves and Brian Snitker are awesome. They are very analytical, and it should baseball purists can weep.
My favorite was Alex Rodriguez had himself a playoff series. I have never seen one person get consistently ratioed as much as he did for quite some time.
Do you follow Bob Nightingale?
I
don't actually.
No, I do not.
Yes.
Do I?
To your point, yes, I see where you're going at the same time.
Yeah.
It was like tweet after tweet after tweet. Anywho, Diego, your thoughts?
Yeah, just A-Rod's an idiot. It's so funny, but also sad because that's what MLB is promoting with the idiots there at the top. Anyway, do I think this is a win for the old school whatever BS you want to call it? Absolutely not. Like Kristian said, if anything, it's a win for analytics. That's Kristian had already mentioned a big bulk of the things like the shifting, the home runs. Those are things you do when you're an analytically inclined team, right? You want the launch angle. You want everything. You want to optimize the launch angle. Launch angle is a thing for every batted ball. People seem to forget launch angle is just a thing that has always existed in the game. We just now know how to manipulate and evaluate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Ted Williams was talking about launch angle back in the day.
Exactly. It's literally just math. It's literally just the existence of things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I want to kind of shift that idea of anti-analytics, and that's why that's BS. By the 3 major acquisitions they made, for the Braves made for this run in Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall, and Eddie Rosario. So you have these guys, and the only one I would call an old school kind of guy that they acquired would be Eddie Rosario. That being just because he's just he doesn't strike out a lot. He tries to make contact. He's not exactly a power hitter of any sort. Plays good defense and all that. Actually, doesn't play that great of a defense, but people like to say that because they think he
played a
does
good
the eye
defense in
test.
the postseason.
He did.
But not before that. So it's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he passes the eye test, right?
Uh-huh.
And he doesn't strike out a lot, right? He doesn't swing and miss a whole lot. But the thing is, when he was acquired about that time is when he was starting to turn his season around, as in he was trying to make contact more consistently. The analytical minds of the Braves front office and people looking to acquire players saw that and hey, this guy has made in change in approach at the plate coming from Cleveland, which is a very analytically inclined ball club. And so he's going to bring that to change, not necessarily bring it over, but keep what he's doing and continue to progress. And he skyrocketed in his performance when he got to Atlanta. Then you move on to Adam Duvall. He had he was 92nd percentile in barrel percentage. He was making good contact. He was hitting the ball hard, 70th percentile in hard hit percentage. He was doing the right things when you look at it at an analytical side of things. Those are the things you want, because if he's making consistent hard contact, barreling the ball up consistently, that's going to result in hits. It's going to result in home runs. That's going to result in the things you want out of your outfielders. Plus, he played a great defense. Duvall's a great defensive outfielder, no matter what you think he is. His OAA was 88th percentile. outfield jump was 69th, nice percentile. And people don't realize that he played such like good defense because his eye test isn't fantastic, but he plays a good defense. And then when you go to Soler, same thing. Not the defense; he's bad at defense. But the barrel percentage is up there, 82nd percentile, hard hit 79th percentile, average exit velocity 83rd percentile, ex-Woba 79th percentile, 70% walk percentage, like 78 percentile walk percentage. He has all of those analytical traits that you want in a guy you're going to go and acquire at the deadline. And if you think for a second that the front office of the Braves didn't know this, you're ignorant, you're a fool, you're an idiot. Like, what are we talking about? Like, of course they know these numbers. They saw these things. They're like, yes, that's who we want. They're hitting the ball. That's going to be hits. That's going to result in what we want. And if you deny that in any sort of way, you just want to be mad about something that you don't understand. Like, it's not that hard. Just learn a little bit, please. It'll make everything so much. It's just math. It'll make everything so much better. I promise you. Learning the little intricacies of advanced statistics and analytics make baseball a whole hell of a lot more enjoyable. And if you don't think so, like, that's fine. Enjoy the baseball you can. Just don't tell me that I'm wrong, because numbers don't lie. So
it's just math. That's what I like to say.
Just math.
It doesn't hate you. It's just math. Like,
it is. It's that simple.
But no, it's there's been plenty of discourse around this, and I think you both mentioned, or actually all three of you mentioned, surrounding the bullpens and some of the bullpen games. That kind of leads perfectly into inning 3 here. The postseason has once again inspired discussions surrounding starting pitching that, in an article by Ken Rosenthal, calls for the return of the starting pitcher, basically looking to implement rules to
lengthen starting pitcher out.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to say.
Gotcha.
Yes, but essentially it comes down to lengthening the starting pitching. So we'll start with, who haven't we started with? Diego. We'll start with Diego. How legitimate are the concerns over the amount of short outings we saw by pitchers starting pitchers in the playoffs? And I guess what's with all this pushback as the game has evolved?
I want to start out with this. Ken Rosenthal is an idiot. I'm coming for violence today. It's just where
I was
like,
now.
Man,
this is just.
This is where I'm at in my day now. Ken Rosenthal is a babbling idiot who knows nothing about baseball. So is anyone who really works for, like, really any of them. Even MLB Network, most of them don't know what they're talking about. ESPN especially, they're awful with it. Either way, there's nothing wrong with short starting pitcher outings. If anything, it's better. Because what people fail to realize, especially idiots like Ken Rosenthal, is the health of the players is ultimately the most important thing. And I think we can all agree on that. I think most people would agree with that. But Ken Rosenthal doesn't think it's right. It's not fun to watch 7 relievers throw out of the bullpen. That's not how baseball's supposed to be played. And you're just an idiot. That's like all. It's frustrating because you have all these major like outlets that cover sports, and they just want to be mad about something because baseball's not the way it was when they watched it when they were like 7 years old. Like, and that's how it is. Sure, starting pitching is great. Starting pitching is awesome. If you don't have good starting pitching, you're not getting to the postseason. And we all know that. Good starting pitching will get you to that postseason. But once you know there's a finite amount of games, especially if you don't win those games, you get less and less games. Who cares about how long your starter goes? Like, your starter can go 2 1/3 innings, and your bullpen comes in and throws a shutout the rest of the way. I'd call that a pretty nice game, right? Kind of exactly what happened with the Charlie Morton outing. That's exactly what happened, right? And no one complained about that because Charlie Morton left with an injury, which was awful for that to happen. But no one complained about that bullpen coming in and being locked down. It was celebrated because of the circumstance. And so if it happens because who started game 1 for the Astros? Was it Urquidy? or Framber.
I think Framber's
Yeah,
free.
Framber.
Yeah.
He went 2 1/3 because he was bad. And you saw no one bat an eye about it, right? It didn't make any, garner any attention because it's mostly because it was overshadowed by Morton, but because these major media outlets will pick and choose when they want to be upset about these bullpen games, when they want to be upset about starting pitchers not going very many innings. And honestly, just making the best move for your team is all that matters. Like, get your team a win. A win's a win. In the postseason, a win's a win. That's ultimately what matters. Who cares about having a 7.52 ERA in the World Series if your team wins the World Series? Right? Like, I'm sure that guy will get over it because he's got a ring. And it's crazy to me that the return of the starting pitching, it never left. It never left. It's just the health and safety of guys ultimately became a priority, and players know that. But these media don't, and it's fine. Also, only one closer had more than one save this postseason. I want to throw that out there. And closers also a thing. Like, these guys in the big media, they like closers because that's an established role, and saves are important. Only one guy had more than one. That's it.
You're just going for blood. That's fine.
Yeah. I've chose violence today.
I'm fine with that. Kristian, your thoughts?
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with Ken Rosenthal. I think bullpen games are boring. The runtime of bullpen games are 4 hours or longer. I don't find it enjoyable. When there's 2 outs and they bring in a new guy, no one on base, that's a 3-minute commercial. You get 1 out, that's 3 minutes more commercial. I hate it. I've always hated it. So I am fully in agreement that baseball should try to go back to that. Now, can you? That's hard because relievers are becoming better and better and better, and baseball's just getting smarter. There's a way to change it. You're only allowed to have 13 pitchers on the 26-man roster. I think you should go down to 11 pitchers only, and that would be a lot better. Once pitch clocks come in too, it will shorten down the runtime, but just minimizing the amount of relievers the team can utilize within a game will just make baseball flow better. I understand every advantage. I'm an analytical person. I understand, like, you don't want to have your pitchers in 3 times through. I get that. But bullpen games are boring. They run too long. They're walk heavy. They're strikeout heavy. It is not fun to watch for me. Like, really at all for the most part. It got really boring this postseason. There was not too many games where I was just jumping out of my seat in excitement every single time. A lot, like, especially in the World Series. Game 5 was great. It was close scoring throughout the entire game. Everything else, it was done by the 3rd inning and the bullpens were already in, and I had very little enjoyment with this. So I do see Ken Rosenthal's points. I understand, like, it's harder to just say that now because relievers are as good as they are, and yeah, I wish starting pitchers come back. Baseball should market starting pitchers like football markets quarterbacks. Pitching is the heaviest part of this game right now, and yeah, it's marketing's bad. Everything's bad about it right now. So yeah, I do agree with Ken Rosenthal.
Interesting. Ethan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely more in the middle of those two. I'm going to be a little more gentle than Diego was, though.
I've chosen violence today. Let's deal with it, y'all.
Yeah, there definitely are legitimate concerns on both sides, but a lot of the evolution is solely due to the fact that guys just throw harder now. When starting pitchers consistently threw 7 innings or 8 innings every time, it was like if a pitcher was able to throw 95, that was impressive and that was eye-popping. And now we have teams whose entire bullpens can, like, casually pump 97, 98. It's an entirely different game now. And Ken Rosenthal is right in that MLB can better market itself by having starting pitchers going deeper into games, and that the starting pitchers, a lot of them generally are, the bigger name guys that people, deliberately want to go see. Like, there isn't a Yankees fan alive who would want to go to a game because Garrett Cole's pitching that day. and then be happy to see him get pulled in the 4th inning and then have to watch, 3 innings of Nick Nelson. Like, that's nobody wants to see that. So I think there will be a push in the new CBA negotiations to have incentives to leave starting pitchers in longer. And he mentioned, like what Kristian said, with the roster limits, having 11 or 12 pitchers on your active roster, or the DH hook where we have the universal DH, but when you lose your starting pitcher, you also lose your designated hitter. I could see both of those, and I think those would definitely, make managers want to leave their starters in longer. But like Diego said, ultimately the most important thing is player health. And I think that if we do, implement all these new rules where starters have to pitch longer, and then we see a wave of injuries because guys, are accustomed to throwing 4 or 5 innings and are being pushed to throw 7, I think that's a net negative for the game for sure.
I want to interject just on that last point with pitchers' health. The Tampa Bay Rays and the way they use their pitchers, they have the most injuries with their pitching staff every single season, using their bullpen the way they do. If you were to revert it, go back to starters stretching out, I think you would see a significant decrease and not an increase of injuries because of sporadic instances of when they're being used rather than having set schedules and knowing,
That's just because of the way they actually use them. The sporadic nature of it is definitely the issue. I think having a more kind of set way of doing it, especially if you're going to do it like the Rays do, would definitely benefit. But also, there's a middle ground there somewhere. I'm just not sure where it is, but I'm sure someone does. So, or it'll be found soon enough.
Hopefully.
I'll be honest. I started on the Diego spectrum side of things, and I landed more towards the middle between Kristian and Ethan. So I don't know. I think it's my tendency is just to get mad because I feel like not enough baseball writers put out positive things in the first place.
Yeah, that is true. There's too many people who hate baseball. I like broadcasters. There needs to be people who are loving baseball now and how it is played now. And so it is upsetting seeing all these articles.
Right, and that's why I think the natural tendency is to be like, oh, well, you just hate it. I can't believe you're writing this stuff. It's like, to an extent, he's correct. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it's like, well, you can also word it a little bit differently. It's not like this dire panic, this sport sucks because of this. It's like, hey, we have a legitimate thing where it's not fun. And we have a legitimate case where we can probably do something about it and still keep the analytical part of the game. Like, let's let the game keep naturally evolving. I think you're even seeing some of that, which like the amount of stolen bases that occurred in the playoffs. Like some of the game's just going to naturally evolve. Everyone's looking for that market inefficiency. And it's circling back to, well, nobody was stealing bases. So now let's figure out how to steal bases again. It's all just, the game's going to be very cyclical in nature. And that's why it's like, if starting pitching is currently a concern, let's word it as a concern and see what happens. Let's not say, oh, well, you need to return the glory of the start. Like how you write about a problem is important to me. And that's just my thought on that.
I agree.
Also, the day this comes out, if you want your free tacos from Taco Bell from your Steal a Base, Steal a Taco, that's tomorrow or today. When this comes out, it's the same day. Just saying. Shout out Taco Bell.
Get your tacos.
I believe it's online or in-app only, by the way. You can't just walk in and ask for it.
Wait, really?
I think so. I could be wrong.
No, they said you can walk in stores.
Did they? Okay. Then I saw misinformation on MLB.com.
Interesting. I was gonna say, if that's the thing, I'm like, that seems odd, but at least it isn't. So, well, as we wrap up the 2021 regular season and postseason, congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. I don't think many people picked you to win. If you honestly did, like
at the beginning of the season, I picked the Braves over the White Sox.
Did you actually?
Yeah, it's on my Twitter. I tweeted it a couple days ago.
All right, mad respect for that because I'm
the White Sox were good is not to take for sure.
Everything else was wrong, but the Braves winning the World Series was the only thing that was correct.
That's a shame. We're doing so well too. That's a shame. Yeah, we don't talk about that. I'm still in mourning. Anywho, let's jump to the postseason because it got started early for once.
Offseason.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said
Postseason.
postseason.
I said-
Postseason just ended.
And postseason just ended.
Silly.
Offseason just got started very early.
Yes, it did.
For the first time in what feels like a long time, the Tigers and Reds christened the offseason Wednesday afternoon, agreeing to swap Tucker Barnhart, the catcher, and Nick Quintana, the minor league second baseman, in the first move of the winter. We will start with we do have an American League guy. Perfect. We do have Kristian on. We'll start with him.
Oh yeah.
What's the benefit of this move for what's the benefit of the move for both teams? What's the benefit of the move for both teams? And does this send any messages about the direction of the Reds in particular?
So the benefit of both teams, for the Tigers, they have a really young pitching staff, and they were being caught by Wilson Ramos last year. He's not a catcher. You'd be better off having a backstop behind you. So having a positive defensive catcher is really good for the pitching core and just for the Tigers as a whole. I was talking with Scott. Among catchers with 1,000 innings caught and 700 plate appearances since 2019, Tucker Barnhart is 8th in framing runs on Fangraphs, 7 in defensive runs saved, and 24th in WRC+. He's at only 84 WRC+, but the league average for catchers is about 87 to 89. So if you're right around there and you're a plus defensive catcher, you're a good catcher. So it's a really good get for the Detroit Tigers. What do the Cincinnati Reds get out of this? Nick Quintana. Nick Quintana is going into his age 25 season. He has not gotten past rookie ball, and he hit below the Mendoza line this season. Only thing the Cincinnati Reds got out of this was $7.5 million that they're sending to Detroit. It's a horrible trade for Cincinnati, and for the second straight year, they just look like a laughingstock during the trades. That's the message that they're sending to everyone else is, hey, we suck. We don't know what we're going to do. Laugh at us. We deserve it. And yeah.
I didn't need the permission to laugh at him,
but let's jump to the other side of the spectrum, the NL Central fan here. Ethan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just talk about the Tigers real briefly because Kristian basically nailed everything I was going to say about it. With the big three in the Tigers rotation with Skubal and Manning, they're all 25 or younger. So having a catcher who's not just above average, he's well above average in basically every aspect of his game defensively. I think that's going to work wonders for them. Basically anything the Tigers can do to make their young pitchers' lives easier, they're going to do it. And it's going to be a lot easier for them when Carlos Correa is also playing shortstop. But we'll touch on that later. I'm sorry.
I might have to take away points. We'll figure this out in a little bit.
We'll get there. But in regards to the Reds, General Manager Nick Krall gave a pretty uninspiring statement earlier, where he talked about allocating payroll and focusing on scouting and developing players, stuff that I'm accustomed to as a Pirates fan. Is the kind of stuff that he's spewing as the Reds general manager. So I think that's a pretty good indicator of how the offseason is going to go for the Reds. It looks like Nick Castellanos is going to opt out of his contract, so that's a lot of money off the books. Mike Moustakas is on a really bad contract, and he was dreadful last year. So I'm sure they're going to be desperate to try to get his contract off to anybody who's dumb enough to take it. And those aren't the only two names either. There's a plethora of guys who could be going from Cincinnati. I don't think Barnhart in particular is too big of a move, like too big of a detriment to them, because they already have another catcher in Tyler Stevenson who they really like a lot and is a lot younger. So I don't think Barnhart in and of itself is a really bad move for them. I just think that's the first domino that's going to lead to much more things to come for the Reds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Diego, any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, mostly. I think these two hit square on the head. I love the move for both sides, actually. A lot more for the Tigers, mostly because what Kristian has mentioned, he's a great defensive catcher, right? With the young arms that they have, that's only going to help their development, help their transition to the big leagues. And a couple of them are already there, but kind of further that them setting their presence in the big leagues, again, their footing. It's only going to help that and grow their confidence. And I think it's a fantastic move. for the Tigers, especially because they do have a prospect in Dylan Dingler that is set to – he needs about a year, another year in the minors. And look at that. Tucker Barnhart, 1-year contract. Crazy. Wow.
Math.
But, yeah, math. But yeah, this is a really good like kind of transition guy, I think, especially with those young arms, with that great defensive catching ability that he has. And on the Reds side of things, they really like Tyler Stevenson. Tyler Stevenson had a pretty good year. If I remember correctly, I didn't fact check that, but I feel like he had a good year. That I saw. This is very loosely, but I know the Reds like him a lot. And Tucker Barnhart didn't really have much left to do in Cincinnati. Sure, he was drafted by the organization. He was a Gold Glove. I think he was an All-Star for the Reds at one point. But I mean, Detroit's going to be a fun team next year. I think it's a good move for them. They're going to only be better with this acquisition, and it's exciting. So that's really all I got.
Tyler Stevenson was a 2-win catcher in 400 plate appearances, so I'll allow he had a good season statement.
He had a fine season. It's the Red. That's good by Red standards, okay? Like, come on. What are we talking about?
I'll allow it. But yeah, I think you guys nailed it. It's very much so, hey, Tigers are ready to compete. They're going to need that pitching staff to grow in order to do so. I think the Reds are like, all right, it might be time to retool a little bit. It'll be curious to see if they do anything with that pitching staff. Guys like Castillo might be on the move.
Sonny Gray.
I think because he's only got 1 year plus his opt-out, or his option year, excuse me, I think he might be the first to go, truthfully.
I mean, it's a cheap contract, too.
Oh, yeah, it's a great contract.
$10 million plus a $12 million option, I believe. So it's a cheap contract there for a guy who probably isn't going to be around the next time the Reds are the powerhouse they're planning to be. And I don't know. I think this move definitely signals, hey, let's plan for the future.
Beginning of the end.
Exactly. Beginning of the end, we see the writing on the wall with Votto aging and Castellanos opting out and Moustakas on a bad deal. It didn't work what we tried. We're going to have to tear it down and try again a different way. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Mm-hmm. Inning 5, after conducting an extensive interview process that even involved Ozzie Guillen of the White Sox, that means you have turned over every stone. The Padres hired Bob Melvin away from the Athletics on a 3-year deal to be their next manager. I think we'll start with the Angels guy again on this one. How impactful of a move is this for the Padres? And the reason I'm starting with you, Kristian, what does this say about the potential direction for the A's?
Firstly, I hope this is the end for this Athletics core. I hate Matt Olson to my core. I love him, but I hate him. I just need him out of this division. Matt Chapman needs to go. Mark Canha needs to go. Like, they just need to tear down. I am begging everyone. Billy Beane also has to go. They just need everything new. I hope the Vegas Athletics enjoy their time. For the Padres, this is a really good move for the Padres. The last time I was on This Week in Baseball, we spoke about Jace Tingler, and we all came to the consensus. You cannot throw your star player under the bus. And he did that last year with the Grand Slam. He was a loser for that. I lost all respect, and I'm sure quite a few in that dugout did, and that clubhouse did. So just bringing in a new face outside of Jace Tingler, firstly, is great. Bringing in Bob Melvin, who has always had to get people to buy into the analytics with the Athletics, because that's all you can do as an athletic manager. It's great because the Padres need they need those analytics. They need the shifts that he can provide. I've always been of the mindset that modern day managers don't really do much anymore, because your analytical team does all the shifts for you. They do the lineups, they set your rotation, your bullpen. They're doing that, not necessarily the managers. A modern day manager is a bench coach, and he's just there to boost the morale for this clubhouse. And no one does that as good as Bob Melvin, except for maybe AJ Hinch. He's the only real manager that matters.
I raise you, Tony La Russa, in the White Sox dugout.
Yes.
In terms of your statement on the manager does nothing, I will raise you, Tony La Russa.
Manager can inherit a team.
Nothing positive.
Yeah, fair. There you go. Diego, your thoughts?
Yeah. So, as a Giants fan, I hate that move, but as a baseball fan, I love that move. Bob Melvin, like Kristian said, that's a fantastic fit for the Padres. They have the pieces. Jay Stingler was not the guy. I think we all knew that. They knew that. Bob Melvin, I think, can absolutely be that guy. He is that guy. Like, he's going to be able to bring that clubhouse together. He's going to be able to, be that modern day manager that gives you just enough to be a fantastic team. And as far as the Padres, the A's go, they feel very lost in every single aspect of their organization. Like, their stadium stuff's kind of starting to find some sort of resolution. I know, the Oakland City Council, I think, finally approved a theoretical ballpark not too long ago. I could be wrong about that, but also, I wouldn't be surprised if they just get up and move anyway. It'd be a detriment to the city of Oakland, but alas, what are you going to do when your ball club decides that they hate your city? So, they have the core now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's all gone by the start of next season. They just seem lost, and I think if they bring in a guy like Ron Washington, I've heard that name floated around. I think you can definitely get him right back on track, but I wouldn't be surprised if you bring in Washington and then everything still goes off the rails. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens, but I love the move for the Padres and for the betterment of the club because they've got a fun bunch and they deserve to be at least a decent team and not the laughing stock of baseball.
Ethan.
I don't know if you're going to believe me or not, but I put at the beginning of my notes here how much I really wanted them to actually hire Ozzie Guillen. I think that would have been fascinating. I think the whole dynamic of having him there with Tatis and Machado, I think that would have been amazing. I don't think it could possibly have gone worse than his tenure with the Marlins, but it definitely would have been entertainment nonetheless.
The bar's on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
I think it might be lower than that, actually.
But in terms of Bob Melvin, yeah, clean sweep. I think this was a slam dunk for them. He's a 3-time manager of the year. He's been to the playoffs 7 times. 6 of those were in Oakland, which is usually in a pretty competitive AL West. The Padres, like they all mentioned, they still have a really talented roster. And I think just the pressure of, keeping all that intact, of managing all that in a really competitive division just was too much for Jay Stingler. And like Kristian said, I think he lost the respect of the guys in the clubhouse also. So I think Bob Melvin, I think that's perfect fit for them. And the A's, I agree. It's looking pretty bleak out there. I think it's going to be a similar situation to what we just alluded to with the Reds, but probably worse. Especially since they are looking for a new manager. I think whoever they bring in is going to end up wanting to do things his own way, and they're going to tailor to that, and that's going to lead to a lot of turnover on that roster. I've seen a lot of speculation with Olsen and Chapman and Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas that at least 3 of them are probably going to be gone, and that's on top of them. And that's on top of them losing Mark Cannon and Starling Marte to free agency also. So that's already 2 big pieces out, and there's probably 3 more who are out the door also. So I think it's going to be a rough offseason in Oakland also.
Kristian smells blood in the water in the AL West right now.
As he should,
to
honestly.
myself every year.
But this year's different, right?
This year's different.
Also say that to myself every year.
Yep. But don't worry, it's true this time. Don't worry.
To be fair, you've got at least 2 rebuilding teams right now, and you've positioned yourself at least decently. So
yeah, it's again what I tell myself every year. We have 2 top teams, Angels being assholes, 2 shitty teams, and
we shouldn't be at the bottom, right?
Yeah, Texas is going to be at the bottom. I was looking at Seattle's rotation today. Flexen's not going to be all that good this season. He had a low K per 9, high left on base percentage. His peripherals weren't that good. Marco Gonzalez did not look good in Seattle. There was a whole lot of pieces in that rotation that just did not look good. So I'm not too worried about Seattle. Plus, you can't have that historic of a bullpen in back-to-back seasons. It just don't happen.
Hey, but
The Astros are really good still. They're going to lose Carlos Correa this offseason, and it is totally okay. They will replace him with ease. That rotation is stupid talented. Even though they're losing Greinke and Verlander, it didn't really matter because these guys. There's a new part of analytics because we've been focusing so heavily on K percentage, but the Astros are doing something really good, really special with soft contact and ground balls. Like Dallas Keuchel, I always slandered him, but they had a real thing there. And Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Urquidy, they're all doing it, inducing a lot of weak contact, getting 45 to higher percent ground balls, and still keeping up the K percentage. So the Astros are still good. And then, us, who knows?
You never know.
You will
Always
be
an
playing
adventure.
baseball.
Well, that's the
Probably.
hope. What a fantastic transition, Diego. You can tell you've been doing these as a host a little bit. Hopefully we're talking baseball and playing baseball because we should probably talk about the potential lockout coming December 1st. As Diego alluded to, there will eventually be a new collective bargaining agreement. There will be a 2022 season. We don't know when it'll come. We're hoping it starts on time and it won't be an issue. That being said, that's not a given, clearly. Let's start with Ethan. How do you think the looming end of the CBA will affect the offseason? And what do you think will be the biggest change that comes to the game starting in 2022?
Yeah, I think the biggest effect on the offseason is going to be inevitably when there is a lockout and the rosters freeze. That's definitely going to slow things down a bunch. And not only will teams just not be able to do anything, but depending on what new changes are implemented in the CBA, that's going to impact how teams want to construct their rosters. I know we talked about the starting pitcher stuff earlier. If there are changes there, that will impact how people approach spending millions and millions of dollars on the big name starting pitchers. Universal DH obviously will impact players' markets significantly. So I think that's going to be the biggest impact on the offseason. The changes I foresee making a big impact next year. I think we might end up seeing the salary floor. I know people have mentioned like $100 million payroll minimum. That would definitely do wonders for my team. So there'll be a lot of moves to make there. We're, I think, in the low 40s right now. So there's a lot of work to be done if that ends up happening. And
Dallas
with that,
Keuchel to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's go.
he's
Get it
immediately the ace. Immediately the ace. I'm not going to fight it at all. I think with that would come the an increased minimum player salary. I think that would just go hand in hand with that also. Changes in service time rules, I think, also is a big one that's going to end up being implemented. Preventing service time manipulation. The players' clock starts sooner. They reach free agency sooner. That's definitely a big one that I think is on the way. And also the universal DH, I think, is pretty much inevitable at this point.
Kristian, your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much aligned with him. I don't know if there's really going to be a lockout this season. We've always been talking about it. But I think owners are scared of losing money right now. And when the last time we had a real major lockout, 94, what did it take? It took a whole steroid era resurgence to save baseball. Baseball's losing viewership this season. Last season and the season prior were all the worst in World Series ratings. So I think they're going to be really hesitant to truly have a lockout. Owners are just going to have to sack it up a little bit. Big changes. So the universal DH is inevitable. We all know that. It's been kind of accepted now. 2020 really helped, I think, with a lot of NL fans just getting used to it. So that's going to be one change. Pitch clocks are another change. They tested pitch clocks out the last couple of years for 15 seconds. It cut down the runtime of baseball games by 21 minutes.
Good Lord.
And
20
that's
minutes.
like huge. It's 21 minutes. It was mind blowing. I'm surprised it wasn't implemented the moment Manfred saw those numbers. And then we spoke about the payroll situation and whatnot. And I've seen 100 million being thrown around a lot. And if this was 20, really work. Now the total in 2021 by spec was 130 million, and the top 18 teams all above it. There's 6 teams here that would only have to spend 5 million, and like there's very few who are actually having to make significant increases. So I think it would have to go up even higher than that. But that's one I do not believe is going to be coming. I think owners are just too scared of losing money, and that's a surefire way to lose money is having that. Especially with the proposals they had where they were trying to tax the top teams. That's no chance in hell that happens. If I had any like hope or change, I want luxury tax firstly eliminated. Penalties should be way less harsh. You should not be penalized for wanting to spend money on this sport because spending money is spending money. I mean, you should be awarded for spending money, and it's just makes no sense to me. I can't wrap my head around it why teams get penalized. We talk about the markets or whatever. The worst team, the Royals, okay, the Kansas City Royals, who like I despise. No one watches their games. No one goes to their games. They suck. They got sold for over $1 billion. The Royals, over $1 billion. There's money everywhere here. Yeah. Royals, man, the Royals.
The Royals.
Royals.
I feel like that's every person's reaction to talking about the Royals. The Royals.
Rudy noises.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
all
will
right,
be looking
Diego.
forward to pitch clocks.
Yeah,
That's fair, yeah.
I did not know that it made such an impact. That's really interesting.
Mhm.
Diego, bring us home here.
Yeah. Also, like pitch clocks, like, I didn't know they were that significant either. I'd love to see that implemented because, I mean, pace of play has been Manfred's biggest issue. And granted, it is kind of, becoming a bit more of a problem with long games and people losing interest because of the runtime of games. So a pitch clock is something that you can implement that doesn't really have any effect on the actual game itself. Like, I know there's been talk about, like, moving back the mound and stuff like that. Like, that's a significant change to the game. A pitch clock isn't. So I think that would be fantastic to see in the new CBA. Like these two said, the universal DH is inevitable. I think NL fans have really warmed up to the idea. I personally have. For the longest time, like when I was younger, I'm like, I like the idea of having the pinch hitters and all that because it's kind of fun. But also at the same time, I'm not anti-DH, universal DH. I want to make that clear. I want to make that absolutely clear.
As you should, because you're getting close to winning, and I'd hate to watch you lose on a statement like that.
I'm not Matthew Penn or Carson, okay? Never compare me to that. But I'm not anti. I want the universal DH, but I have enjoyed the time without it, like because it's been cool to watch, especially this past season. Especially the Giants were able to do with pinch hitters and home runs. I just thought it was cool. It was neat. So, but universal DH absolutely should be implemented. I think we see it as we should. I think service time manipulation should come up. And I think it's something that players are going to really, really push for. If the owners of these teams are going to push for their agenda of, just wanting as most money as possible, the players should at least get that back. The spending floor is something I personally think I would want to see. I'm not sure we actually get it, but I would love to see that just because it makes teams, more competitive. Tanking is not fun. You can still tank with a spending floor, but you can be more entertaining while doing it. Instead of having 110 lost teams, we'll have like 95 lost teams. I don't know if that has no backing to it, but like numbers. But it's something math. Something I personally would love to see is a better treatment of minor leaguers and somehow incorporated into the collective bargaining agreement. I'm not quite sure how they would do it, but personally, I think it's an important thing to have. It's a huge issue, and minor leaguers deserve to be paid more than literally $2 an hour. So, and as far as the lockout goes, I think we do get one, but it's extremely brief. I think it's no more than a month long, mostly because what Kristian said, managers don't want to lose money. So I think that's where it really comes down to. They're not managers. Teams don't want to lose money because they're greedy. Yeah. All the people at the top of the greedy owners are awful, and that's all they want. But yeah, I think it's a very, very brief, and it's just so the Players Association can really make their point. They're like, we're not afraid to lock out and not do this, and then the owners they'll cave because they are greedy billionaires who just want money.
I like the optimistic.
To add on to the to add on with Diego's minor league point, they showed out with that the minor leaguers are going to get housing now, and that's all they're going to try to do. It is fantastic. It's been asked for like 10 years now, and it took multiple Angels minor leaguers who have been starving in their cars to complain and finally get their word out. I respect every minor leaguer who's finally speaking out about this because it is an injustice. I don't see MLB doing crap about it this CBA because
probably not.
They have their little shining moment with the housing. That's all they're going to do. They're still fighting with the government to continue to pay them below minimum wage.
Shout out the Twitter account. I think it's Advocates for Minor Leaguers. I think that's the name of the account.
They are very good.
They're good. Should follow. They promote the hell out of getting minor leaguers any sort of livable conditions, wages, all that. The housing thing was a big step in the right direction, but it should be far from the only step.
Mm-hmm. As we head into our final question, since it's a prediction, there won't be any points. I do want to point out how nice I was this evening. Diego got exactly 28 points and won on the day he found out Buster Posey retired. I'm such a kind soul. Don't tell me I'm not a nice person. I just want that to be abundantly clear.
Bank 28. It's written on the whiteboard behind you. You just can't see it because I used an orange marker and didn't fill it in like an idiot.
Yeah, probably wasn't the brightest move if you were trying to make a statement. But hey,
we
live and we learn.
Black marker. It's fine.
Anywho, yes, Kristian, that is true. He only won because Kristian slandered the White Sox and lost 4 points.
You gotta know how to play the game, man. I'm a veteran at this point. I
will slander the White Sox at every opportunity. They deserve it.
That's fair.
And you will lose every single time.
It is okay.
I respect the hell out of that.
I do respect it. I do, trust me. Let's jump into our final question. It is...
That is okay. I'm sorry.
That's fine with me. Let's jump into some postseason again. Off-season predictions. We've already discussed it's upon us. It is time to start thinking about where some of the big names will go. I want everyone to predict where these following big name free agents wind up. Obviously, these aren't the only ones, but these are the 5 I have chosen. Carlos Correa, Corey Seeger, Trevor Story, Marcus Simeon, Chris Bryant. We'll start with the one who has one of the players involved because he is now an ex-Giant, or potentially an ex-Giant. Who knows? Diego, your thoughts on those 5 free agent predictions?
I'll go top to bottom there, starting with Carlos Correa. Hashtag Correa to Comerica. Get Carlos Correa to Detroit. I think
I'm regretting giving you that win.
That's fair. But the Tigers are headed in the right direction. They look like they're finally willing to spend money, and Carlos Correa would be a fantastic fit there. I just think it makes a whole lot of sense. A lot of people have been connecting Correa to Detroit, and I think he would be a great fit. If anything, if it's not Detroit, I think he stays in Houston. But I don't think he stays in Houston, so I think he's going to Detroit. Moving on to Corey Seager. I have Corey Seager replacing Correa in Houston. I originally had thought, in my head, I'm like, Seager to the Mariners. because Kyle just left there, but then that relationship kind of soured kind of quickly. So I'm like, maybe not. But if Correa does in fact move on, there's nothing saying that Houston won't just scoop up another shortstop. So I like Seeger to Houston if in fact Correa does move, like I think he will. Next, Trevor Story. I think the Yankees deserve nothing, but I think they will get Trevor Story. He's been linked there a little bit. He doesn't have very good facial hair, so that's okay. That'll work for him. I think it's something that they'll kind of want. Like he's been linked there. I think it will be a decent fit, but the Yankees deserve nothing, so it's okay if they don't get him too. Marcus Simeon. I have Marcus Simeon to the Giants. He wants to go West Coast. The Giants are kind of lost at second base. Sign him, and he was already in Oakland for all those years. He enjoyed his time there. So bring him to San Francisco, I think it would put a big improvement in our lineup, would give us that star that we're really missing. Simeon to San Francisco. And Chris Bryant, I actually do not have Chris Bryant staying in San Francisco like many other outlets do. I have him shooting up north to Seattle just because I think he wants to stay on the West Coast. The Mariners are kind of in a win-now mode. If he doesn't come back to San Francisco, which people link him to, the Mariners are a good fit. And most surprising free agent signing just kind of came out today that he is now a free agent. Former Mariner, Kikuchi to the Giants. I love the idea of having him in San Francisco. A lot of people say he wouldn't be surprised if he leaves the MLB entirely, which I wouldn't be too surprised at either. But I think he'd be a fit in San Francisco, especially since we're losing our entire rotation besides Logan Munn. So, Kikuchi to San Francisco. Book it. That's my surprising take. I don't know if that's surprising, but that's what I like.
Kristian, your thoughts?
I like it. I was talking to Nick Tucker, and he also was considering Chris Bryant to Seattle, so I was bummed that you chose that because that was thinking about that. Yeah, and also, I think you're heavily slandering Trevor Story's facial hair here. It is really defined. He just keeps it nice and groomed.
Is it? I feel like every time I've seen him,
defined beard.
Let me hold on. Sorry, I might have. I feel like every time the Giants play him, he's just clean shaven. So.
Yeah, no. When he gets his beard,
I'll look it up real quick.
He gets rather defined. Carlos Correa, I do have to agree. Detroit Tigers seems like the most likely option. They have so much money to spend, arguably too much money to spend. The AJ Hinch connection is real, and I mean it just makes the perfect sense. Nothing else in this offseason makes more sense than that. Corey Seager, I also thought about Seattle for a little bit. But then Jerry Dipoto, being the loser that he is, the scum of the earth that he is, ruined another relationship. Really oh, he's a loser. I hate him. He shouldn't be in baseball. He ruined and soured a relationship with Felix Hernandez, Mariners legend, and then he did the same thing with Kyle Seeger, another franchise legend. So I don't see Corey Seager going there. I don't like the Astros one. I think they're just going to replace him with whoever, and it'll be fine. I always thought about the Braves, but the Phillies as well. Somewhere East Coast is where I like to see Corey Seager. The Phillies might be the best for him. Trevor Story, I thought about the Yankees a lot too. I think honestly Anaheim is a perfect ideal spot for him. We are in desperate need of defense with a good bat. I think he's going to be the cheapest of these shortstops. Simeon's not the shortstop, but I think of the shortstops, Story is going to be the cheapest one, and he's young, and we really do need that. It'll be perfect for Anaheim. Marcus Simeon, I had going back to the Blue Jays, but I've been kind of hesitant on that. I think just a wild card there is the St. Louis Cardinals can really use Marcus Simeon. They aren't that good offensively. Their defense is good. They lost Colton Wong. I think Marcus Simeon would be perfect for St. Louis. I just don't think his bat's going to stay the same. And as Diego said, Chris Bryant, Seattle was a really, really interesting thought. I don't know if I would imagine San Francisco like tries their best to re-sign him. It seemed like it was match made in heaven at the deadline, but then he kind of didn't perform the best. But I can still see him going back to San Francisco. A signing that just a big shocker is the Angels signing any pitcher to a multi-year contract. We haven't signed just one. It doesn't matter who. Like John Gray for 3 years, I will be crying of tears of joy. Like we have not signed. It does not matter. We have not signed a free agent MLB pitcher since C.J. Wilson to a multi-year contract. C.J. Wilson, we signed the same season we signed Albert Pujols. It's been a minute. So I could easily see us getting Max Scherzer first, because he's either going to be a Dodger or an Angel. So I think that's if he's an Angel, that's the biggest shocker. And then John Gray as an Angel is another shock fest, simply because we don't sign pitchers to multi-year contracts.
Ethan,
go ahead. Real quick. Trevor Story's facial hair is not that good. It's like
fine. No, it's defined. It's good. It's filled. I thought we were slandering it, you know?
It's fine. He looks good with the beard, but it's just not. It's forgettable. That's why I didn't even realize.
He has a blonde beard, and if you have blonde hair, it's kind of forgettable as it is.
That's fair.
With. If it was a dark colored facial hair,
you're making me think it was like a lot fuller than it's a little patchy.
It is well defined, though. I agree. It
is well defined.
Like the lines are defined. Everything. It looks good.
It's very
it looks rather cute with it.
That's fair. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But like also, he'd be fine without it. So
he's a top 10 cute player of the league. You know?
I'll agree with that.
Top 15 out of 10. No, you're probably right.
I'm probably right. Fairly confident with top. I like that top 10.
Yeah, top 10's a good pick. Yeah, you're not wrong. I think if he grew out his hair, it'd
be as long as we're all in agreement, Max Stassi is the hottest player in baseball. It's okay.
I won't disagree.
Yeah, let me look.
I might have some bias towards Cole Tucker.
Cole Tucker, that's fair.
Cole Tucker is a handsome man.
Cole Tucker's winning in life.
So if you can catch Vanessa Hudgens' eye while being horrible at baseball, I gotta give respect to Cole Tucker.
That's true. Shout out Cole Tucker.
Really is winning in life.
Cole Tucker, if you want to shout out Diamond Dice at all, please do. We respect the hell out of you, man. Shout out Cole Tucker, for real.
Shout out Cole Tucker.
Cole Tucker, hit us up if you want to be on This Week in Baseball.
Hey, stop. All right, Ethan, give us your predictions.
All right, so you'll notice that both of these two assigned one of these players to their own teams. I do not have that luxury. So I'm just going to I'm just going to get that out of the way real quick. Correa, I already said I think he's going to Detroit. I just think it makes all the sense in the world. Even with like the connection to AJ Hinch, it makes too much sense. He's going to be Yvonne Rodriguez 2.0 when they signed him, 2004, 2005, after they sucked a bunch and then went to the World Series right after. I just think.
Stop.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
It just makes too much sense.
No, you're not.
I know, but we don't gotta say it.
See, Laz is crying here because he does not have a good shortstop, and he really needs a good shortstop.
You know what? You already lost the game. I
have whatever the Angels are throwing out there right now.
I will say this.
We definitely need a shortstop.
It's also a low bar, so.
I also have not to cut you off, Ethan. I have long accepted Correa to Detroit. Since about May, honestly.
Correa to Comerica, get it trending. Shout out Scott.
No, we don't need to go that far. Like just a silent acceptance is fine. But please, Ethan, continue.
All right, Corey Seager. I have him going to the Yankees. I don't think they necessarily need a shortstop, but they obviously have the money to do it, so they're going to do it. And the facial hair is much less of an issue there than it is with Trevor Story.
Very true.
Trevor Story, I don't like this at all, but I think he winds up in St. Louis. I think that Nolan Arenado is going to give a good word to the front office, and he's going to end up with his old pal in St. Louis. I hope to God that does not happen, but I think that makes a lot of sense too.
It hurts me how much that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. Marcus Simeon, I also have him going back to Toronto. He just made such a huge impact there. One of the best offensive seasons ever for a second baseman. I think they're going to give him a ton of money to go back there. Chris Bryant, this one's a little bit of a wild card. I said Houston for Chris Bryant. And
I thought about it.
I don't think he exactly would have a defined position there. Obviously, he could jump all around the outfield. He could play first base. I think maybe they would periodically move Bregman to short.
I was just
if
about
they
to say,
wanted to
what if
play
they did that?
Bryant at third. I don't think that is an awful idea. And they obviously have a ton of money coming off the books with Correa and Verlander and Greinke. So they have the money to spend. So I don't think that would be an awful move for them either. And my big surprise for free agency, in an attempt to mimic the Braves just starting from scratch with their outfield, I think we will see all three of Kyle Schwarber, Starling Marte, and Nick Castellanos go to Miami.
Wow.
Oh,
That would be fun.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
That would be fun.
One of the Marlins outfielders is bound to be Brandon Marsh or Joe Adele. We had those talks in the deadline where they're already back now from reports. So that's unfortunate. I'm going to be sad to see one of them go.
I like to see what Miami ends up doing this offseason, to be honest.
They have a really big offseason. Them and Detroit.
I think.
It's going to be a fun offseason, I think.
Yeah. And if we can get some fun moves in there and things actually develop, it'll be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I think Miami's got a huge offseason. It's time to make a move. I think Detroit's the same way. I'm pretty sure Al Avila even said it today. We're planning to compete. So I hope that comes at the expense of the White Sox also deciding to spend a little bit of money. I don't know. We'll see.
I have a Marlins hat.
Yeah, let's just chuckle. Okay. Funny.
I was looking for my Marlins hat.
It was a good joke, I got to say.
Anywho. But yeah, it should be a very exciting offseason. A lot of fun, big names. And we might get, obviously, a few more wrinkles thrown in with qualifying offers and stuff like that. But I don't know. It could be a very, very fun offseason, pending how the CBA goes.
Yeah.
I think that, unfortunately, that'll kind of sour things for a little bit. But at the same time, I think there's enough here to make for a really fun offseason. Just might really depend on when that starts.
It is a shame, but the greatest free agent class of shortstops ever is coinciding with the next lockout in baseball.
But hopefully we never get there. Hopefully it's all rainbows and butterflies over the next 20-something days, and we get no lockout, we get a new CBA, and all is right in the world. But
that's definitely what MLB is known for, just rainbows and butterflies.
Just very easy stuff. But, I mean, we've wrapped up 26 episodes. We did this for half of the year in terms of recaps, and we skipped some weeks in there. That is going to do it for us as we come home, and probably throughout the offseason, we'll do periodic stuff.
Podcasts.
Yeah, a couple podcasts as information comes down. I unfortunately don't think it'll be coming in on a weekly basis, but at some point we'll have some fun things to talk about. this event in baseball. But first of all, and I want to thank everyone who has appeared on these podcasts throughout the year as analysts. Diego has stepped up dramatically, filling in. It feels like at least half these episodes for me.
I think I did 5, 6.
Okay, so maybe not half, but you still did quite a few. I first and foremost want to thank you and everyone else who makes these podcasts possible. But also, without listeners, we'd be just screaming into the void of whatever social media we put this on. So I also want to take the time to thank everyone who listens and follows along throughout the year. We're certainly not going anywhere, even as the podcast takes a little bit of a hiatus. Make sure to follow our page at Diamond_Digest, on Twitter, Diamond.Digest, on Instagram, and the website is diamond.digest.com. We'll have plenty of off-season stuff coming in. We have a fabulous team for all 30 teams, or fabulous team of writers for all 30 teams. And we're really looking forward to what this offseason brings. Plenty of things to talk about. Make sure to follow along with us. We will be following along with the offseason, and hopefully we'll have a lot of fun things to talk about. So that's going to put an end to season 2 of This Week in Baseball, presented by Diamond Digest. For Diego Franco-Carreno, Ethan Fisher, and that man I love to hate, the Angels fan, Kristian Lloyd. This is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. Hopefully you have a great offseason and your team signs all the free agents you want them to. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Max Stassi better than Yasmani Grandal.
You know what? Way to end the year.